Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Today I would like to share with you a great hadith. In fact, two hadith, but they will be two separate videos. The first hadith is about sincerity. So I will say the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, this hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim, 3 men amongst those who came before you set out until night came, by which time they'd reached a cave, so they entered it. A rock fell down from the mountain and blocked the entrance of the cave. They said to each other, "Nothing will save you from this misfortune unless you supplicate to Allah by virtue of a righteous deed you have done for Allah alone." Thereupon one of them said, "O Allah, I had parents who were old, and I used to offer them milk before any of my children or slaves. One day I went far away in search of grass and could not come back until they'd slept. When I milked as usual and brought them the milk, I found them both asleep. I hated to disturb them and also disliked to give milk to my children before them. My children were crying out of hunger at my feet, but I waited with the bowl in my hand for my parents to wake up. When they woke up at dawn, they drank the milk. O Allah, if I did so seeking your face," meaning the reward of seeing Allah's face on the Day of Judgment, "then deliver us from the situation we're in." The rock moved a little bit, but they were not able to get out of the cave. The second one of them said, "O Allah, I had a cousin whom I loved more than anyone else." In another version, he said, "As a man can ever love a woman. I wanted to have sexual intercourse with her," meaning unlawfully, "but she refused. Hard pressed in a year of famine, she approached me for help. I gave her 120 dinars on condition that she would allow me to sleep with her." And of course, dinars were gold coins. The weight of each one of them was 4 grams and a quarter. She agreed, and when we got together for sexual intercourse, she said, "Fear Allah and do not break the seal unlawfully." I moved away from her despite the fact that I loved her most passionately, and I let her keep the money I'd given her. O Allah, if I did that seeking your face, then remove the distress we're in. The rock moved aside a bit further, but they were still unable to get out. The third one of them said, "O Allah, I hired some laborers and paid them their wages, except that one of them left without taking his due. I invested his wages by buying, selling, and exchanging, and this venture prospered hugely. After a long time, he came to me and said, 'O slave of Allah, pay me my dues.' I said, 'All that you see is yours, camels, goats, sheep, cattle, and slaves.' He said, 'O slave of Allah, do not mock me.' I assured him that I was not joking. So he took everything and went away without leaving anything. O Allah, if I did so seeking your face, then relieve us of our distress." The rock moved aside, they got out and walked free of the cave. This hadith, as I said, is narrated collected by Imams Bukhari and Muslim, the most authentic collections of hadith in Islam. So what do we benefit from this great hadith? First of all, that when we're in distress or difficulty, then we must, not must, but it's permissible and it's good to seek the relief of that distress and difficulty through our dua to Allah, through the deeds that we did only for Him. And of course, it's not correct, and it is a bid'ah innovation in the religion that people call upon Allah through someone, an individual, whether dead or alive. It must be avoided for 2 reasons. Firstly, there is no evidence in the Sharia to support this action. Secondly, the Salaf, the pious predecessors, never did it. Also, this great hadith shows that preference must be given to the service of parents, even over the service of one's wife and children, even in things that are not obligatory to be done. Also, to abstain from sins out of fear of Allah is a highly virtuous deed, and it's never too late to do it. Also, that's of course the second hadith. It's never too late to do, and it's never too late to repent, unless of course the sun rises from the west, or the person is in the throes of death. Also, laborers and people under one's care must be treated fairly. Their wages must be paid back to them whenever they request, and in an honest manner. Because the third person was very honest, even though he could have given his payment to that worker, and in some narrations it said it was around 8 to 10 kilograms of rice, not that huge amount of wealth that he'd accumulated through trading with that little bit of rice that he'd left. Any dua made sincerely and with a real sense of humbleness is granted by Allah. So we must bear that in mind. Allah sometimes helps His pious slaves in an unusual manner, which is called in Islam karamat, miracles. We of course believe in karamat, but with conditions. Those who receive them must be upon the right path and the sunnah, not upon bid'ah and sins. And also they only happen with the will of Allah. So this great hadith is very important in leaving bad deeds and doing good deeds, especially to parents, and to people who are under us, and being honest. So I call myself and you to adhere to these great principles and to show through our behavior the beauty and greatness of Islam. Wa jazakumullahu khairan.